Over the past couple of years, the Baltic states have had their population drop pretty drastically. Although somewhat recovered a bit, their fertility rate is still well below the replacement rate of 2.1. And even in the major cities, the population is still not increasing by a huge amount. For Tallinn and Vilnius the population is only increasing at a snail's pace, and in Riga, it is still collapsing. So you would expect the real estate prices to be decreasing continually, or at best stagnating. Nothing can be further from the truth. In fact, rent and house prices are skyrocketing. In fact, it is increasing faster than ever before. This might be contradictory, since prices are driven by demand and supply, and the lower of supply the lower the prices. However, we will see why property prices are increasing despite the fact of a declining and a stagnant population. Ever since the fall of the USSR, the Baltic states' economy has skyrocketed due to the economic reforms implemented and a greater focus on Western markets. In fact, it had one of the highest growth rates in Europe during the early 2000s. Due to an increase in wealth, the citizens' buying power increased, therefore they were able to offer higher offers for houses, therefore naturally the property and rent prices increased. This also happened to other regions that experienced economic booms, such as East Asia, albeit on another scale. Although the Baltic nations experienced a nasty shock during the 2008 financial crisis, they still did manage to maintain healthy growth after the crash, and in GDP per capita terms, they managed to recover. Unfortunately, Latvia's overall GDP still hasn't managed to fully recover due to its population decline being the worst in the Baltics. Another big economic boost to the Baltic states was being able to join the EU. This meant that citizens from the Baltics found it much easier to go to Western European and Scandinavian countries in search of higher-paying jobs. Like with economic growth in their home countries, a higher-paying job in a foreign country will increase a Baltic citizen's buying firepower. When some of them go back to their home countries and decide to buy a property, they are able to provide a higher offer, therefore driving up the house price even further. And since the Baltic countries are in the EU, investors from countries such as Germany find it much easier to invest in Baltic properties, therefore increasing prices. Since the Baltics are also in the Eurozone, this has exacerbated this. Even though housing prices in the Baltic have increased over the past few decades, it has really picked up in the last few years. There are a multitude of reasons for this. The first is that the European interest rates have been extremely low for the past couple of years. In fact, the ECB has only just raised interest rates for the first time in 11 years about a month ago during the time of recording. Alongside low interest rates, inflation has skyrocketed in recent months. For obvious reasons. Due to rising inflation, people would want to preserve their savings and would not want it to shrivel up into nothingness. Therefore, people would want to preserve their wealth into stable assets. Real estate is seen as a good asset against inflation because it is a tangible asset, and there is always a demand for homes regardless of economic climate, because people need to live. The other reason why houses are expensive in the Baltics is that the price of the building materials has gone up. A big reason is that the pandemic has disrupted supply chains of steel, timber, concrete and cement worldwide. And since demand hasn't gone down, prices of these materials go up, therefore making it more expensive to build homes. I would also just want to briefly mention digital nomads. Estonia just launched a digital nomad visa which allows these digital nomads to go to Estonia for their remote work. Since this encourages workers outside the EU to settle into the country, usually from wealthier countries such as the USA, this further drives up the prices. In conclusion, this video is to point out that just because a country has a declining or stagnating population, this does not necessarily mean that house prices will also decline or stagnate for a variety of reasons. The main is that as countries get wealthier, prices increase, including real estate. Some other countries have also experienced this. Although Seoul's population has basically stagnated at around 10 million, house prices still managed to increase. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one.